From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody crabbing out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. Free at last! Free at last!
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now. 559-899-1550.
Hey, y'all, welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. This is old Alan Autry along with Bullet Bob Leoni. It's Free for All Friday. Anything and everything's on the table. But first and foremost, it's a holiday. And normally I don't come in on holidays. But on this one, I had to come in because it's Veterans Day. And what an honor it is and a privilege it is to have this little radio show to give a shout out to all the veterans who put on that uniform of all branches of the military to defend this great country. Not always appreciated. I don't think we're living in Bullet Bob even now in an era where our military is appreciated as they should be. That's just not a partisan issue. We're in the middle of, hyper-partisanship. Just got through a very testy election, still waiting results. But, I think that's something that most people with a heart, most people that care at all about America, Republican, Democrat, Independent, I don't care what persuasion, I don't care what gender you are, none of that matters. Those people that say, you know what, I love this country enough, put on that uniform and know that any time I can be called to defend this great country and, if need be, give my full measure of devotion, meaning give my life to this great country.
Well, and they're
pretty amazing day, isn't it?
They're volunteering.
Volunteer on.
They're no draft. So this is all of their own volition that they feel the need to enlist in our military. And we, hats off to them. My dad was a veteran. He was in the Pacific Campaign in World War II. My Uncle Bob, unfortunately, was killed in World War II.
Mm.
So
were you named after him?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I never told you that story.
I probably forgot it. You probably told me very young.
Yeah. Well,
that's something that normally if you told me late in life, I'd never forget it because
Yeah.
We were probably out hoisting those barley brews out there, and
mine like a rusty trap.
Yeah, back in the day. But my goodness, what an honor!
Yeah, we salute all of our veterans. In fact, I texted to several of my good veteran buddies this morning. Always appreciate. Of that, and not only today, folks, but every day, we should thank our veterans for what they did in service to our country. Don't just confine it to one day out of 365. Let's do it all. If you see someone, and I try to do this as much as I can. If you see someone at the store, on the street or whatever, sidewalk, and getting to go into the movie theater, whatever it may be, and you see someone there that's got a cap on that says Army veteran or Vietnam veteran or whatever, walk up to them and shake their hand. I can guarantee you they'll appreciate it, and you will feel great because you've personally acknowledged someone for what they did for this great country. So we want to tip our hat to all the vets today.
Absolutely, right off the bat. And again, that's why we're here today. A lot of people came into the parking lot. It's practically empty.
I had a place to park today.
I actually backed my old Silverado back in there. But yeah, not to go on and on, but yes, to go a little further on this because it's deserving. When you take a look around at the world, you see democracy truly threatened, truly under attack. Europe, and you see people, ideology, seeking to take over countries, strip the population of rights, their God-given rights, liberty. Uh, you really, that's what we need to understand and really true threats to democracy. Not this January 6th crazy. Now the knuckleheads that went in the Capitol, protests got out of hand, are getting what they deserve. That's not the threat to democracy. Almost universal condemnation. We still have freedom here. That freedom, as Bob, you said, has been paid at a price. From the inception of this country, fighting in the most awful conditions possible. Winter, you have the lead man, the top dog, not sitting in some office directing tens of thousands of people to be killed like today here. He's on the boat, 30 below zero with his men crossing the Delaware out there fighting. And then you go through World War I, World War II, have a war that almost tore this country apart. After that, you had several skirmishes. Then you have the Vietnam War, Iraq War. I know those are contentious subjects, but the concept of freedom, as Martin Luther King, oppression, one place is oppression everywhere. I'm paraphrasing that, but you got to make sure before you get into those wars, especially in other countries, that you have a country that truly values those principles of freedom and liberty, and are willing to pay the same price as our country, our troops, when we go fight side by side. That was the problem with Vietnam, and we don't want. And I see the same thing happening. But we're not going to get off on that. Tip of the hat to all the veterans, and especially when it hits close to home, is my Uncle Tony in the Navy. He was my uncle, still my uncle, but he's been more in my life, more like a brother. I would say an only child, but I wasn't, because I had my Uncle Tony, other uncles, many of them served in heaven. A big shout out to Tony and woman behind, I would say behind Tony, but it's not just side by side, and that's my Aunt Tessie. We're proud American. That lady who I'm about the same age. She's my aunt. Tip of the hat to Tony. Okay, now let's turn to these midterms. Bullet Bob, answer me this. Why, in your mind,
wait a minute,
with your wisdom, which is, your cup overfloweth.
I'm known as Mr. Wisdom in
Mr.
other circles.
Wisdom. That circle being broken.
There you go.
But why in the world? It is Friday. The election, if my old is correct. Florida, a state of 7 million or something like that. No, more than that. 7 million votes.
7.5 million votes in 5 hours.
In 5 hours.
Counted the day of.
And you got little old Picayune, Nevada, and Arizona that we may have to wait until after Thanksgiving.
Oh, is that what they're saying now?
Well, yeah.
Well,
we're here and we're waiting on these dumps. So it's, states get it together. Oh, it's only the future of the world at stake.
Totally embarrassing.
And you know what? Let me ask you this. It's those kind of, if it's ineptitude, okay, I'm going to take it as that. Bad system and ineptitude that kept the system like that in place. You knew it was broke way back when. The people in charge that were elected in Nevada, Arizona, there's other places too. Michigan, those two. You got 2 Senate races there that said not just decide the direction of the country, but the world. They knew that it was broken, and nobody did anything. And you're saying, well, why? They know they should. Why do we just keep getting these mysterious dumps of ballots from these mysterious places, truckloads of ballots? And you want to get ticked off and call people election deniers, or just because they say, hey, something smells fishy here. Something just ain't right. What is going on? You can't say that. Or you're a right-wing wacko that is serving, Trump caviar at Mar-a-Lago because you're so far up his rear end. You can't, isn't this the reason why you have some people going, wait a minute,
Well, absolutely.
there's something up here.
Absolutely. And the longer and further it goes, the more suspicion is garnered because things are not happening on a timely basis.
Not even in a reasonable amount of time.
And I read, and I can't remember if it was Nevada or Arizona, it doesn't really matter, that one of the election officials was surprised that there was such a large in-person turnout the day at the polls the day of the election. Isn't that what people are supposed to? How are you surprised by the number of people that show up to vote? We weren't ready for it. What are you talking about? How can you not be ready for it? That's what happens on election day. People go to the polls to vote, and they were overwhelmed by the large numbers of folks that showed up. I'm at a loss. I don't know what to. I don't know what to do.
I could go and rally senior citizens all over the state of Nevada to show up at a place.
The Walker Brigade.
Put about it. Hey, one for Masters, one for Kelly. Here's one for Masters. Here's one for Kelly. They'd get the thing done before Thanksgiving.
But you're right. It does lend itself to terrible suspicion and conspiracy theories and everything else. It's terrible.
I tell you, I don't get triggered by much.
Yeah,
I get triggered if hamburgers. I have one so infrequent because I got to keep my blood sugar down, cholesterol down. I want to have a good. I just usually go to In-N-Out. Five Guys. You ever been to Five Guys?
No, that's pretty
good. I went to Fatburger. I got a Fatburger.
Oh, that new one?
Yeah.
Over there at Willow.
I had one I couldn't even open my mouth wide enough.
Well, that's a big burger.
I had to gnaw on it from the bottom up. I told my grandson, they went through, they called me, he said, hey, Papa, we're going through Fatburger. I said, they got a Fatburger here? Yeah. I said, you want one? I said, yeah, okay. Is the bear doo-doo in the woods? Of course I want one.
Take the small bite of the elephant.
He said, which one? I said, give me the biggest one they got.
You couldn't even.
He come back, 3 patties and an egg on top of the patty. And these were little thin, little razor patties. These were healthy sized patties. Had everything on it. Jalapenos, lettuce, everything I'm not supposed to have.
And you're still sitting here today.
God dang, it was good. The whole time I'm starting to take my first bite, I'm going, please be good, because I don't want to be triggered.
I don't want to have to discuss this on the
radio. It would have
radio.
spoiled my night. No, it would have. I've got to work on that. I'll be the first one to work. But it's just those little innocuous things that get me up. Political things, I get passionate and adamant. But this late vote tallying and getting these dumps in trigger the living daylights out of me.
Like a third world country.
I want to go over there and line them all up. Politicians, like I said the other day, and I got a little trouble with it, because sometimes you got to get their attention. There's this old joke, a guy about this guy drives by and he sees a mule out in the field, and the farmer's got a 2x4 hitting his head. He stops, animal lovers. So he gets up, walks up to the guy, and he says, what are you doing? He says, oh, he's a good mule. I just got to get his attention. And I feel like not taking a 2x4, hammer or anything like that, but just going over there, doing it the old-fashioned way. Saying, who's in charge of not changing these counting laws? And who's in charge of not calling Florida and saying, hey, how y'all doing that and implementing it here? And just kind of line them up. Kind of like Jackie Gleason did in Smoking the Bandit. Make them grab the wall and go down the line and kick them both square, all of them square in the the arse. Boom, and go down the line.
Well, and how do you have the tabulation machine?
I don't trust machines
in Arizona.
We need to go back to paper ballots. I do not trust machines.
How do you have the tabulation machines in Arizona go out within the first 2 hours of the election while they're trying to count the ballots?
Oh man! To me, these election machines, whether they're, this is not a partisan statement. You know how technology is. They don't have 3/4 of this stuff even close to being perfected. Have you tried to send a text by voice activation? That's how World War III is going to start.
What did you call me?
Putin's going to go, voice activate a text to Biden going, Yeah, let's just see if we can find some way to get along. And it's going to say, the missiles are on the way.
Well, that would
That, you know, so it's out of the question that machines could be messing up, that they have to go in and correct. That's, you know, that's what's happening. They're breaking down. And
California is just as bad. We've still got some races, congressional races in California have not been decided.
Why not do it the old way? You show up on election day. If you can't, you do an absentee. Nobody had any problems with that until the country, a good portion of the country, got so freaking lazy that they didn't want to, you know, leave an Oprah rerun to go down and get in the car and go vote. Dadgummit, I stood in a line and got soaking wet in rain. This time around.
Oh, it's
all right.
It's just a big
beat that point to death. But
mess.
Dadgummit, it's frustrating. You know, sitting there waiting and. But anyway, you know, said on this show. I'm going to say it again. I'm really befuddled by this reaction of the Republicans and the Democrats, and both Fox News and CNN, who predicted a red. I don't for 1 second. You remember on this show saying, "Hey, you better watch out. This victory laps you're taking are not going to materialize."
Right.
The odds are, you're thinking it's 80% going to be a red wave. I'm saying it's 20%, if that. And they look at me going, "Why? Look at inflation. Look at this. Look at that." That's two simple reasons. You got young people showing up who love the party of free stuff. The Generation Z stuff, they haven't grown up yet. Some of them are enlightened. Most of them not. Free stuff sounds good. If you're against climate change, if you don't believe that you're a god and you can control the weather, you know, you're which they believe in the old body power of the Democratic Party to control weather. If you don't believe in, hey, open borders, come one, come all, because we love everybody. Because nobody in your family has not been mugged, killed, or raped yet. Okay? And so they're going to show up.
And they
for
did.
The party of free. They did.
And they did.
And then this nuclear bomb that was detonated on the GOP called the repeal of Roe versus Wade. Those are two things, especially the latter. I said, there's no way. And hopefully the Republicans can learn from it. I happen to believe in life begins at conception. I know I'm probably in the minority. I know I have to work together with that individual who thinks you can have an abortion at any time. Late term. We're all in the same country. We're all going to have to work together to feed the homeless, to beat inflation. I can't say you have no right to be here because of what you believe. And I don't have to respect I respect your right to have that opinion, that belief, but I don't have to respect the content of your belief or your opinion. And that's a big difference. People want to conflate the two. But I knew, didn't you, that this was going, the Democrats were galvanized. They thought they were Republican strategists. Oh, they're beaten down by inflation. Joe Biden's the war in Ukraine, open borders, crime out of control. That issue of abortion was the big equalizer. And so to withstand that nuclear explosion in your ideology coming at you, if they win, they meaning the Republicans, the House, by the slimmest of margin, by one vote, if they're able to keep the Senate the way it is, they have a chance to have the majority in the Senate. You should be dancing for joy and say, we pulled off the impossible. And by the way, go to work right now on all those people you lost that were on your side before Roe versus Wade, and figure out some way to make them feel a little bit better about things. What do you say?
Well, there are a couple of things. Number one, you had told us early on, don't get carried away with these polls, because I know you don't trust them. The polls were for the most part, completely wrong, or at least way exaggerated as to what actually happened. And I think we both agreed with cautious optimism. Don't run around the track with the flag waving saying that you won all of these seats until it actually happens. Mm-hmm. And that's just, kind of common sense stuff. But you don't want to celebrate victory before time's expired, because anything can happen. Saw Fresno State a few weeks late in the game. Also, your comment about Gen Z is very interesting. I read this morning that Tufts University back east has already done a survey of Gen Z voters, 18 to 29 years old. Do you want to know what their top 2 or 3 or 4 items were for the country?
Go ahead, tell us. I can guess. But
okay, abortion, LGBTQ rights, student debt loan forgiveness, climate change, and environmental protection. Nowhere in there is economy, borders, crime, anything else. So their entire election issues had nothing to do with what the Republicans were trying to claim, and also the threat to democracy.
So here's my question, and not only do you hear, but listen and go to the GOP, which I used to be a member, independent now, not a Democrat. But we'll go over who I am one of these days. We'll go through what I believe.
Who are you?
I don't know. I have a show on what I believe, so at least you know and know who this crazy brain came from, or what I believe, what I have written in stone inside my heart. It's my beliefs, what I kind of believe, what the jury's still out of my mind on different issues. We're going to go with that just because I get asked a lot. Just because I'm an independent, one of the parties. But you just mentioned this Generation Z, who's going to be around for a while. You gave a rundown on what they think's important. And I'm not saying those issues that they have are not important, but the existential threat to this country right now, because they talk about existential threats, is not climate change. It is out of control inflation that has destroyed every strong country in the history of the world. Eventually, inflation got out of control. Crime. All you got to do is look at the Weimar Republic before Hitler took over, and see what lack of law and order can do. Historic, they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And the Republican Party has 2 choices dealing with that generation, and also with those mostly women, but men that left because of the. But in particular, I was zeroing in on this Generation Z. You can sit back on your TV shows and have all the Republican leadership come on and either dismiss them or call them stupid, ill-informed, they'll grow up someday. Or you can validate them, not agree with them. So you know what? I can see how you would feel that way. I understand how you could feel that way. But let's have a real open, honest discussion about each one of those issues. Let's keep an open mind. You talk with me like a grown-up, and I'm going to talk to you and reach out to these young people, because I've seen it with my own eyes. I've experienced a lot of these young folks who thought a certain way. If you sat down with them, if not, come over completely on your side. And that's something, don't try to flip somebody like a switch. Suddenly somebody who's pro-choice is going to be pro-life. But if you can plant the seeds of respect, of discussion, of civil discourse, and treat them like grown-ups, you got a chance to plant some seeds that are going to grow inside these young people and have them, in many cases, look at things a little differently. Because as Thomas Sowell said, there's no wins or losses in life. Very few wins and losses. There's trade-offs. And I don't like what this party stands for. I don't like what this party stands for in totality. I don't like the whole Republican agenda. I don't like the whole Democratic agenda. Or I might be a Democrat or Republican, but I like this candidate, what they're saying. I want to know more about what he or her is saying. And you make a trade-off depending on the times, what's facing you. So you can say, you know what? Yeah, maybe something to this climate change. I'm going to keep my open mind, look at it. But you know what? If we don't get inflation under control, we're not even going to have the resources to fight climate control. Because in part of your climate control agenda, you're saying we should be spending not just billions, trillions on climate change. Where are you going to get those trillions of dollars? If you're running businesses into the ground and we can't afford to even invest billions, much less trillions in it, unless you get inflation under control, you get the border under control, you get crime under control. You know, you just treat them instead of dismissing them, getting ticked at them, and you cost us an election. Treat these young people with respect and be the first one, GOP, to reach out to them. You may bring back a bloody stub when you reach out to them. So what? Reach out again. You got a left arm too. And when you do that, stick a foot out there. And pretty soon, you hear what I'm saying, folks. We got to start treating people with respect. And I tell you, when you talk to people around the country, people are kind of fed up with politics. They want the two parties to work. We got old Steve from Illinois on the. Oh boy, they went blue wave as expected. Steve, are you there, buddy? Steve, are you there?
Yes, sir.
There you are. How you doing, buddy? Happy Veterans Day.
Doing good. Doing good. I was listening to you talking about this election results and you know how the crime has gone up, and you know I don't know how the voting went in California, but here in Illinois, we've got over 12 million people here in this state, and this election, less than 4 million came out and voted. And most of the votes all came from around the Chicago area. So, you know, what I seen in this election was, you look at Pennsylvania, and I'm going to bring up Fetterman on this one. This is the type of people that we've got running for an office that Fetterman actually had less vocabulary than Biden, and he ended up winning a seat. I think our biggest problem that we're facing in this country right now is the lack of proper education. The education of this country, what it was created about, what it was fought for. Because, you know, you listen to these commercials and stuff, it's basically these candidates just hate this country, especially the Democratic part of it. You know, we're not being ran as a republic no more. We're being ran as a democracy, and it's not working. You know, I mean, they still got votes sitting out here that need to be counted. And what is this, day 4 after the election? I mean, you know, I don't get it, but you know, I see with all the violence and the crime and this plain ignorance of the rule of law in this country, I see why we are in the shape we are, you know, and the Republicans just don't stick together. You know, the Democrats, as corrupt as they are, they at least stick together, and that's, you know, this mail-in ballot stuff and all that, it just made a big difference.
Well, Steve, let me ask you this. In your opinion, have the people of Illinois, which is, I don't think there's a state you can get much bluer.
California.
Yeah. Well, I was going to make that I was going to make that comparison.
That's an automatic.
Because I can speak here for California. Yeah. The Republican Party and a lot of conservatives have just gotten beaten down and thrown their hands up. And do you think the same thing is happening in Illinois, that people that may think like you do are just not showing up because they said, you know, my vote can't change this mess. It's so blue. I mean, why am I going to go out in the rain, foul weather, or even take the time to fill out this ballot? I don't subscribe to that, you know, but I'm just saying, how much of an issue you think that is in Illinois? Because it's a big issue here.
I think that's a lot of it. You know, people are constantly waking up. I mean, when you go to the gas stations, you go to the grocery store, you listen to the news on shortages and all this other stuff. You know, climate change you was talking about, global warming and all this nonsense, all this lies, it's just finally ate away at people. They're like, oh, what use is it? But I also seen another aspect of this too. The thing about New York, California, and Illinois, they're sanctuary states, and they depend a lot on federal money. So what states are indoctrinating the kids at a greater percentage than the other states, your democratic states? So what I'm looking to is this mail-in vote stuff. Now, I don't know, did California approve of mail-in ballots now like Illinois did?
Well, I think you can just drive by a polling site and yell your choice.
Yeah.
Here, it's,
we had a very large increase in mail-in ballots now. And when you look at the statistics on the in-person, the early, and the mail-in is what made a bigger difference on who got elected here in this state.
And let me ask you this. I'm glad you brought that up. It's on my little notes, and Bob and listeners and viewers. Okay, there's this phenomenon that those who vote early by mail, predominantly Democrat. Those who show up on day of the election, predominantly Republican. Now, if you're a Republican in the Republican leadership, don't you feel you have to do a deep dive and analysis on that issue? Why in the world should that be the way it is? It's inexplicable. Now, I know there's answers there, but they're not on the surface. You're going to have to dig down and find out why. I know for some, and it's another reason I'm encouraging the Republican leadership to get your butt in gear. A lot of people in line where I went, getting older people like me, and they felt they felt good, their patriotic duty, because they were conditioned that way. We were conditioned that way to show up, brave a little foul weather if we had to, stay in line, and make your voice be heard at the ballot box. There's a whole generation. There's generations behind us, though, Steve. They don't get that. They look at that going, why do I have to go out in that line when I can just mark my ballot here, or to here, not leave the comfort of my living room? But why is that predominantly that something's got to change? So my point.
Here's another aspect of that too. Now, you just mentioned something about the older people going and voting, being patriotic. These younger kids sit at home on social media, and they're being told that white men are racist. This country was stolen. We've got to have equality and equity and inclusion. And how are they voting?
Yeah, but that's my point, though, Stephen. If we were sitting with a young guy who was doing exactly what you say he's doing, sitting home, playing a video game on TikTok, whatever, and we presented him with that, he's going to look right back at us and say, listen, old timer,
what are you talking about?
I filled out my ballot. I made my voice heard because I don't feel the same patriotic duty to go down, sit in the line, and catch pneumonia or COVID. I'm going to stay home. And that's why I'm saying I believe there is a chance for the Republican Party to make a very deep, strong inroad into early voting, because we can curse the darkness or we can turn on the light. I don't think early voting is going away. I think, and that's my point.
And another aspect of early voting too. What if you vote early and then all of a sudden you change your mind?
Yeah.
I
I've never heard that point made, and dadgummit. And that is why these debates that happen after the early voting, the Republicans don't like, but the Democrats do. Now, if it would ever flip, because of the conditions, you'd see the Democrats yelling. Like, for example, if the Republicans win the House, Republicans win the Senate, and DeSantis wins the presidency, suddenly the Democrats that are all for court packing are not going to be for court packing.
Yeah.
You get my point? But I think there's a great opportunity. go in and see how many in the senior centers didn't vote because they didn't get, was there an effort to go out and engage them like Stacey Abrams addressed the apartment complexes in Georgia, non-voters, some of them, they just wanted to know where their next fix was coming from. And I'm not making that as a racial statement. White, black, it doesn't matter. But they got what they call disenfranchised voters and engaged them, and a vote's a vote. Hey, sign this. You're registered. I'll be back to get your ballot. Vote here.
Yep.
And by the way, here's some money for to go spend on yourself. And I'm not saying we have to do that, but, what are they doing? What are the Democrats doing strategically to make this imbalance of early voting so much in their favor?
Well, you mentioned nursing homes. You mentioned apartment complex. Are they now? I'm just putting a scenario. This what if? What if they're going out in groves and telling people how to vote? Ballot harvesting.
Yeah.
And
exactly. They're doing that, Steve.
It's innocent. This is innocent. We're out trying to help people get to vote that can't get out and do this, but at the same time, who's watching these people on what they're actually presenting all these people in nursing homes and apartment complexes?
No, I agree with you. And, let me, we got to go to a break here. But, Steve, I want to thank you, number one, for calling in. You're a loyal.
I love listening to you guys.
Well, you're a loyal listener. I don't take that for granted at all. And you always have good insights on things. But let me just plant this seed. There in Illinois. Start it. Have a few people to your house or go over what you just said and say, hey, let's go down. If we're going to go down, let's go down, fight. Let's get our turnout up, even if it's up by 20 people next time. They're saying a good start's a job is a job well done. I don't know. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. That's a better one. And that one step has to be taken by somebody, and it could be you. And I think around the country in these predominantly blue states, and I'm speaking here for California, I can't, I have to fight the temptation every single day not to go, what's it worth? Oh, boy, I won't see it in my time. Well, so what? I got kids and grandkids here. So does Bullet Bob. Jeremy's here. I got to do my little bit. And part of that little bit is not giving up. Come on this show every day and do what else I have to do to keep life, to keep faith, family, country as the basic principles this country is built on. Steve, thank you for calling in, buddy. Appreciate you so much.
Great comment, Steve.
You guys are fantastic.
Well, you are too, my brother.
Very
Appreciate
kind. Thank
that.
you, buddy.
Very kind. All right, let's go to break. We'll be right back. Happy Veterans Day, all you veterans out there. Gosh, darn it, I love y'all.
Hey, Jeremy, can they hear us on social media?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right now they can.
Okay.
Why, we're going to.
Well, no, yesterday.
You don't use foul language. See, that's one good thing in not having to. I don't normally use. Foul language is not part of my lexicon.
Well, no,
except when I stub my toe.
I was one.
Boy, you'll hear a string of stuff. That
last night when I dropped that wine bottle on the floor.
Stop drinking.
And it splattered all over the place. I was not happy.
God, shut it.
And my wife knew I wasn't happy.
Wine bottles are slippery nowadays.
She's not real happy with me right now. No, but my point was the other day I couldn't hear between spots when we were in the spot break.
Election night, Guillermo was having me cut the audio.
Oh, okay. So that was just Tuesday?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Was it just coincidental that it was cut when I was talking? Is that what he's saying?
Only the first 10 times coincidental. After that, it was just a mistake.
I have ways of getting my revenge. And I know you're listening, Guillermo. You got the sore throat. I get the text last night. Not feeling too good. I know you're listening, young brother.
Well, Steve made a great point.
Well, he's a good caller.
About voter turnout.
Oh, wait. Real quick, we got to wish our best to Laura. That new storm that came in, I think that's near where she lives. I think. I may be wrong on that. Yeah, that one, it's a tropical storm, but to us, it's a hurricane, man. I mean, that still can take you out if you don't watch it. But anyway, Laura, hope you're doing well, you and the family, and we're praying for you, you and the family. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Pearl.
Well, he mentioned the low voter turnout. Did you read the numbers for Fresno County? 40%.
Well, maybe they took
1
my
minute?
advice. I told them, if you don't know what you're doing and you're just picking it like a racehorse,
Some people did.
don't vote.
40%? Are
No,
you
that's
kidding
crazy.
me?
That's embarrassing. That's shameful
For all of the seats
for a region that's left behind in this state.
yeah, for everything that we had going
needs
on.
to speak up and get madder than you know what.
That's
like me when I was mayor. I had to stay mad for 8 years. Try doing that.
Perpetual state of mad.
That's the only way you got anything from Sacramento federal government. Threatened to go up there and do a press conference and say, Bubba's pissed. They didn't want that.
Well, you don't want to get on the bad side of Bubba. he would not.
Don't you know who I think I am? Don't you know who I think I used to be? I love you folks. Thanks for tuning
Motel
in.
6.
10 seconds?
A brain surgeon. Those commercials.
I always go back to Jethro. Beverly Hillbillies.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now. 559-899-1550.
Welcome back to Free For All Friday, and we're going to take the free for all. It's Veterans Day Friday. Thank you to all the veterans out there, and I know a lot of them tune in to the show. Appreciate you so much. Okay, it could boil down, it being the future of this country and the policies we adopt, the direction we go, from the economy to an increasingly more vicious war in the Ukraine, which we're getting more embedded in, to a whole host of other issues that literally set the direction of this country for the better or for the worse for generations to come. It hinge on Georgia.
Yeah.
Thinking a lot about that. And there's a ex-football player. I'm an ex-pro football player, so we have a little kinship. Herschel Walker. I've met him a couple times. Really good man. But I think we're going to see something in that race that both parties can learn from. I mean, it's going to be a nail-biter, this runoff.
Yeah.
And again, could very well decide the balance in the Senate. If Adam Laxalt can pull off Nevada, and Masters got a chance, outside chance, we got to do something in Arizona. If we get 2 out of those 3, when I say I mean that from a party perspective, common sense perspective, that they're the we. It's going to come down to the tactics that are implemented in Georgia. And I personally think the difference is going to be, and I'm going to use athletic term, I think Herschel may get this. I have some reservations about some of the strategies Herschel has let into his camp, I'll be honest with you. We can talk about those. But I think his instincts, his number one instinct is very good. Being an ex-football player and excelling. Oh, it's going to be who wants it more. Okay? And both sides are motivated. But who's more motivated? Who can dig down in the fourth quarter when you're beat up? Because all of these campaigns are beat up. I'm telling you, I ran 2 campaigns. They're exhausting. And you got to go to December 6th now. Your staff, your supporters, everybody is worn out. Now, you can get it worn down, but it's going to be the candidate and the team and the supporters that don't wear out. Because everybody's worn down there in Georgia. We've had real close elections the last 2 times there with it. So it's going to be who gets out there and goes door to door.
Beat the bushes.
Exactly. There's money. Sure, you got to run the commercials. It's going to be demonizing one side and the other. That's going to be out there. Who can do? Can somebody come through with that magical promo that touches people or demonizes the other side? Like, Dukakis was leading his race till he put that helmet on and got in the tank. And he came out there and the optic was just horrible. Remember that? I mean, it's outside of that. And I don't think you're going to see that. Because you've got 2 charismatic candidates. You could hate everything that Warnock stands for. but he's very charismatic. He can preach.
Yeah.
The man can preach. And you got Herschel, very charismatic. But I'm going to give Herschel the edge to work hard. But here's a strategy I hope they don't miss. Right now, people like Lindsey Graham, bless his heart, okay, great. You do Herschel no good by standing next to him and you're the one speaking in an interview and not Herschel. Why? Just speak strategically, number one. Strategically. You have already squeezed every single conservative vote that you can find in Georgia. You've done that. You've been there enough. You're going to have to get some people that are straddling the fence, and they're mostly African American. I'm just telling you, I spent 6 years in that state doing In the Heat of the Night. I know it like inside and out. Every demographic there. A small state by comparison, and they're very steeped in love of country. And they want a strong America. They just differ in different ways to get there. And the African American community, especially in Georgia, the Republicans have really kind of wrote them off as the vast majority being far left and going to vote Democratic. And that's true. But there's enough out there, trust me, that if you can make a strong enough case for Herschel, okay, they're going to go there. But you got to let Herschel be Herschel. Herschel's never going to talk like a PhD from Harvard. He shouldn't. That's not who he is. He may make a grammatical error. So what? The man has started a major nonprofit. He's been successful his whole life. He's been very open about his mental health issues. His wife has forgiven him for the thing they had years ago. And there's enough distance and years between the time of that behavior and where he is now to say, that man has clearly changed. But you've got to engage the African American community hard in their own backyards, meaning the churches, the neighborhoods, the mostly black neighborhoods. You got to go in there. You go into places like Conyers, Georgia, Covington, Georgia, and have Trump come down there and rally your white conservative base, you're going to lose. You already got them. You now need to make those mostly African Americans that are still keeping an open mind on Herschel Walker, that they matter, that you respect them, that you want them, and you won't forget them if Herschel's elected. That's pure and simple. And I feel so, as sure as I'm sitting behind this mic, that is the absolute correct strategy to follow. And if you don't, you keep doing what you're doing, putting, Lindsey Graham out there right next to Herschel letting them do that. And, Lindsey Graham looks like the puppet master or Jeff Dunham. And, and Herschel's over there, the dummy, and you see Herschel's lips moving, but it's actually Lindsey. And Herschel's too smart for that. He needs to put his foot down. And okay, I'll let you go on.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please do.
I'm worried. This is going to be tight. And I guess my question, Haas, is, Kemp won a pretty substantial victory in the governor's race.
Yep.
And a lot of times, the rule of thumb is that if you have the Republican governor winning by a substantial margin in his race, that some of those voters will drift back over to the Senate race. I wonder if that has happened to any large degree from all the Kemp voters to Herschel. And if not, why not? And then what is Herschel's strategy going to be? Yeah. I mean, I know what your strategy is.
I'm with you. No, I'm with you. I tell you, why isn't it Brian Kemp sitting next to Herschel?
You go.
Instead of Lindsey freaking Graham.
There you go.
Again, you think I got it on for Lindsey Graham? No, you're you're a senator for South Carolina. Okay, you're not from Georgia, and you're running around there sticking your head into every shot, photobombing everything Herschel does. What's wrong with that man? You got to know when to see. As mayor, I knew when I was a helpful or a liability to somebody who I was supporting. Because you run for office and you get it, you're gonna make enemies. And when I knew a person I respected was trying to get something through in a situation where I had some enemies, I said, keep me at a distance. Don't mention me. I'm not going to get offended. When you get up and do your thank yous, you have to thank Alan Autry because it's going to hurt you. It's not going to help you. On the flip side, if you're going here, hey, I'm still welcome there. They'll still have dinner with me over here, those folks. They kind of like me. It can be useful. Use me. But Lindsey Graham thinks, I don't know what he thinks he is. Because when they see Lindsey Graham, all they see is the guy playing golf with Donald Trump. And Herschel needs to say, Donald, like Youngkin did, don't come down here. Because you're going to think you're coming down to help Virgil. And the Democrats that you need to cross over, all they're going to see is the devil's coming down to Georgia. And he ain't going to play the fiddle.
They're going to no phrase.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm just really concerned as to what strategy they're going to employ now. If they're going to sit back and just run ads, attacking his opponent, and not get out there and get feet on the boots on the ground.
I hope. No, they're going to run ads. A lot of money's going to pour in both sides. But it's going to be who gets out there.
That's my point.
And if Herschel, to use an athletic phrase, run, Herschel, run. Get out there and go into those neighborhoods where you feel most unwelcome. Because I promise you, this is what I found out. I purposely went in Fresno, the neighborhoods my so-called consultants told me not to go. The first place I went was where I was least popular. Now, did I leave that town hall meeting, have them overwhelmingly supporting me? No. But you know what? I got some. And I went back, and I got a few more. That after the end of 8 years, they were asking me to come out there and speak and help them raise some funds there at the Hinton Center in Southwest Fresno. Those of you who don't know Fresno, predominantly black minority area. And I'll say something that, hey, I'm too old to hold anything back. I have more in common with a poor black man than I do a rich white man. I feel more comfortable to this day with poor blacks, poor Hispanics, poor whites, in terms of economically speaking, than I do riding in a limo with a rich man. I still feel uncomfortable. Nothing against the rich man, because I remember what my dad Joe said. You know, he's a dirt farmer, dirt laborer out there, and they were trying to organize him to strike out there, and he didn't do it. And I asked him why, because it would triple his wages. He says, Doc, he called me Doc. I don't have anything against a rich man, because I can't remember the time I got a job from a poor one. So I'm not rich man. But Trump needs to stay home. Excuse me. Herschel needs to get out with the people, wear out 5 pairs of Air Jordans if you have to, go door to door, right in Warnock territory. You do that, you win. You don't do that, you lose. It's simple. Because you know why? In football, use this metaphor. You got to play inside the red zone. You got to get inside. And what happens? The defense gets tougher. They bear down. But you got to get that ball across the goal line. You can't throw bombs, 80-yard bombs all the time. You got to take that ball, put your head down, and get it in the end zone. Happy Veterans Day, Pearl.
Hey, are we done?
Man, we're done. It's fast. A lot of time flies when you're ranting. That's when you're ranting. Well, love you, Pearl. Happy Veterans Day to everybody out there. God bless you. God bless America. And remember, just do your best. Let God do the rest. And I promise you things are going to turn out just the way they're supposed to. Love you all. See you on Monday.